This mother was diving to catch abalone. Her little daughter on the shore kept calling her mother, but the heartless mother did not pay any attention to her daughter's calls. To her, abalone was everything, because abalone helped her children have 3 meals a day, and only abalone could help her children have money to buy books to go to school. That was the mother's heart. But to her little daughter Asun, who did not understand anything, this mother did not care about her at all. Asun and her mother did not live together because her mother had a new husband. Asun's father had died many years ago on a trip to the sea. Poor Asun could only live with her grandmother. She could only see her mother during the day, but this was the time when Mrs. Gwan-rai went diving. Therefore, Asun and her mother did not talk much. Today, Asun went to see her mother to show her about a poem she had just won 2nd place in, but her mother did not care at all, making Asun very sad. But Asun was not sad alone, because there was a silly boy named Gwan-sik who accompanied Asun silently. Even though he was still young, Gwan-sik wanted to take care of Asun. He even sacrificed everything for Asun. When she returned home, Asun blamed her mother for only paying attention to the abalone and ignoring her prize-winning poem. But Gwan-rai said that those poems were of no use. What good were they if they couldn't be traded for abalone or mother of pearl? Gwan-rai also told Asun, bring this poem home to show her grandmother and uncle that family really liked scholars. But Asun said that her grandmother didn't like her. Her grandmother said that Asun was becoming more and more like her mother, so she didn't want to see Asun anymore. Her uncle didn't even let her eat croaker. Seeing that Asun was studying well, her uncle said that Asun was stealing all of his son's luck. Although Gwan-rai loved her daughter very much, she couldn't let her live with her because she didn't have enough money to support Asun's education. At the same time, Gwan-rai's new husband returned home. He also very kindly invited Asun to stay for dinner, but Asun was very considerate and asked to leave. That night, Asun's stepfather read her poem and discussed with his wife whether to bring Asun here to live, but Gwan-rai said that they had no money. This thatched house was also rented. Was bringing Asun here to make her serve her half-siblings? The husband knew that Gwan-rai stayed here on purpose just to be near Asun. Moreover, every time she opened her eyes, Asun would cross the hill to the house to find her mother. Besides, the sea maiden started learning to dive when she was 10 years old. Hearing this, Gwan-rai strongly objected. She wanted Asun to fly high and far, not to follow this miserable profession. Even if she died, she would not let Asun go diving. Afterwards, Gwan-rai sat down and read her daughter's poem again, her eyes filled with tears. On this side, the uncle's son was being tutored by his grandmother. Meanwhile, Asun had to hide in the kitchen to do housework. Outside, Gwan-sik brought croaker to sell to Asun's uncle. Knowing that this family always only bought 5 fish, excluding Asun, Gwan-sik brought 6 fish. He said that the free one was for Asun to eat. At that time, Gwan-rai returned to her mother's house. She threw 2 strings of croaker fish at that family. Gwan-rai was angry that this family treated her daughter like that. Not only did they not feed her, they also forced Asun to work like a servant. After saying that, Gwan-rai kicked the pile of dishes that Asun was washing. Then she pulled her daughter's hand and left. It was because of the touching poem that Asun had written that Gwan-rai had the confidence to do that. In the poem, Asun wrote about her mother. Day after day, she dives for abalone, even though storms came because of abalone. Because of abalone, her daughter had to wait. Waited so long, then mother appeared. Where are you? Why haven't I heard from you? Still searching for abalone. She can't come up. Maybe she's suffocating in the water. My heart is about to burst with worry. Oh, cruel abalone, how I hate you. If you were worth just 101, I'd pay to buy 1 day with my mother. Her back in pain, her cough won't stop. Let me give 101 each day so she can rest and finally live in peace. Gwan-rai cried as she read the poem. She thought the poem should be 1st place, not 2nd place. Even though life was hard then, Gwan-rai tried her best for Asun. She wanted her daughter to have a bright future, not live a life like hers. The next day, Asun returned home. She lay there crying because she was only made vice class president. She got 37 votes, while the 2nd place student only had 28. Yet he was the one chosen as class president, just because he was the son of a powerful family. Asun did not want to accept that unfair truth. Hearing that, Gwan-rai went to the school to see the homeroom teacher. She saw the poem that won 1st place, which was about a loyal soldier father. She thought that the poem was meaningless. It was just a small fry compared to Asun's poem. Yet it was framed in gold and hung up in a solemn manner. It looked so shameful. Inside, Gwan-rai gave the homeroom teacher some rice cakes. In addition, she gave him a few pairs of socks and some money. She did so because she wanted the teacher to help Asun become the class monitor. She had earned these things by working for hire in the fields for the past few days. Outside, Asun knew how hard her mother had worried about her, so she said that being a class monitor or a deputy class monitor was the same. Although she said that to comfort her mother, deep down, Asun did not want to accept the title of deputy class monitor. Back home, Gwan-rai decided to quit smoking. She wanted to live long enough to take care of Asun, and most of all, she wanted to see her little daughter succeed. But things didn't go as planned. hand. Gwang-ri's health gradually deteriorated because of her diving career. She had to call a shaman to perform a ritual instead of going to the hospital for treatment. A-sun knew that her mother was sick because of her diving career, so she burned all her mother's diving gear. Then she went to the beach to vent her anger on the ocean. The ocean had already taken her father. Now did it even want to take her mother with her? That night, Gwang-ri went to A-sun's grandmother's house. Gwang-ri wanted her mother-in-law to come with her to take a photo for her memorial portrait. Gwang-ri was afraid of going alone. When she returned home, when everyone was fast asleep, Gwang-ri woke A-sun up. She had prepared the most delicious grilled abalone for her daughter. Gwang-ri said, "If I die, A-sun will have to leave your stepfather's house. Go live in your uncle's house. Don't stay here to be a servant for your stepfather's family. When you get married, A-sun, hold your uncle's hand. If A-sun gets married without any relatives, mother will cry. Everyone becomes an orphan. Even if the parents die first, the children still have to live on." A-sun sat there crying and didn't want her mother to say anything more. A-sun never expected that it would be her last meal with her beloved mother. After that, Gwang-ri hugged A-sun and sang her a lullaby, and then she left A-sun forever. Little A-sun had to live alone in a dark life. During Mrs. Gwang-ri's funeral, Gwan-sik was always there to take care of A-sun. He knew that A-sun had no one left now, and he was the one A-sun could rely on. The longing for her mother never faded in A-sun's heart. Seeing her cry until her tears ran dry, Gwan-sik cried too. Finally, Mrs. Gwang-ri left, leaving A-sun and her 2 children with her new husband. Her stepfather kept begging A-sun to stay here to take care of her younger siblings. Only then could he feel secure going out to sea to fish. Seeing that her siblings were still too young, A-sun couldn't bear to leave, so she agreed to stay for a while. But she stayed from season to season just because her stepfather had promised her many things. He promised to let A-sun go when her youngest sibling entered 1st grade. A-sun believed that, so she and Gwan-sik worked hard to replace him in the fields. Even taking care of the younger siblings was done by A-sun herself. Although it was hard, A-sun always remembered what her mother had said. "Just live. You will live. One day, you will forget the pain of losing your mother." Every day, Gwan-sik came over to help A-sun with the fields, and he always had a basket of fish in his hand for A-sun. Thanks to Gwan-sik, A-sun felt less lonely in the midst of her busy life. Then one day, A-sun decided to leave this house. Her stepfather didn't want her to leave, so he promised to help her become a poet and go to college. A-sun believed that, so she decided to stay again. Time passed. A-sun had to sell cabbages for her stepfather, and Gwan-sik sold fish for the family. But the person who took care of both stalls was only Gwan-sik. A-sun only focused on her poetry books. It wasn't that A-sun was absorbed in reading them, but she felt embarrassed sitting in the middle of the market wearing her uniform. As for Gwan-sik, he didn't care about anything. Other than taking care of A-sun, Gwan-sik didn't have any dreams of his own. What he wanted most was to help A-sun achieve her dream of going to college. Gwan-sik took A-sun there and picked her up at the right place. He then replaced A-sun's wooden board with a stool so she could sit comfortably. Everything continued from season to season. Gwan-sik took A-sun, who had now grown into a beautiful young man and woman. Gwan-sik also replaced A-sun with a softer chair so she could read comfortably. As for him, it was fine. As long as A-sun was happy, Gwan-sik was happy too. One day, Gwan-sik's grandmother came to the market. Knowing that something was wrong, A-sun quickly ran away. Gwan-sik's grandmother was angry and overturned A-sun's cabbage cart because A-sun kept selling next to her fish stall. She was a shaman and was very superstitious. She thought that A-sun was a daughter with her mother's ghost following her, so she couldn't let A-sun stick around her nephew Gwan-sik. Standing on the other side, A-sun was no pushover either. A-sun provoked her, saying she didn't want Gwan-sik either. A-sun said and quickly ran away. A moment later, Gwan-sik picked up A-sun's shoes. He kindly put them on her feet without saying anything. On the way back, A-sun said that playing together is called a date. A-sun just wanted to sit next to Gwan-sik's stall to earn a living. Even if Gwan-sik gave it to her for free, A-sun wouldn't take it. The sea had taken away A-sun's parents. A-sun didn't want to live here anymore. A-sun would definitely not marry an island boy. At all costs, A-sun would marry a man from Seoul. Seeing Gwan-sik silent, A-sun became even more angry. A-sun asked if the dead cow had cursed Gwan-sik or something. Why was he so silent like a clam? In response, Gwan-sik said, "Then A-sun, take your hand out of my jacket pocket, then find the Seoul boy's pocket and stick it in." This was clearly Gwan-sik's angry and jealous remark, but A-sun accidentally didn't realize it. After that, Gwan-sik took A-sun across a poetic field of canola flowers. Gwan-sik always had a basket of fish in his hand for A-sun. For the past 10 years, Gwan-sik had always given A-sun fish, but not out of pity. A-sun really wanted to know the reason. Instead of answering, Gwan-sik put his hand in his pocket so that he could hold A-sun's hand tightly. Then, he gave the person he loved a surprise kiss. Gwan-sik also said that he would not live with his grandmother and mother. Instead, he wanted to live with A-sun. Immediately after that, Gwan-sik gave A-sun a passionate kiss of youth. This action proved that both of them had confirmed their feelings for each other. However, A-sun always insisted that she would never marry Gwan-sik. A-sun would still marry a Seoul guy. As for Gwan-sik, he didn't care about that. She returned home with the excitement of their first kiss. Today was truly the spring of Asun's life. The youngest brother was eating. The second brother was nowhere to be found, so Asun had to go look for him. When she opened the cloth cabinet, she was shocked. Her stepfather and his mistress were hiding in there. That night, the mistress refused to take care of his ex-wife's illegitimate child. Lying inside, Asun heard everything, and Asun had no choice but to leave. The next day, Asun went to her grandmother's house. She planned to ask to move here, but there was no private room here, so Asun could only sleep in the kitchen. Meanwhile, her uncle kept insisting that Asun should work at factory, but if she did, her dream of becoming a poet would disappear into thin air. When Asun returned to her stepfather's house, she saw her stepfather's mistress taking down her mother's memorial photo. This made Asun unable to calm down anymore. Immediately after that, she wanted her stepfather to pay her for all these years of work, from tuition fees, childcare fees, and the money he promised to send her to college. Standing by, the mistress did not accept that. Moreover, he did not have a single penny left in his pocket, let alone pay Asun's wages. Asun now had no one to ask for help except Gwan-sik. She told him about her uncle, forcing her to work in a factory. Now she had nowhere to go. Gwan-sik did not know what to do, because he could not bring Asun back to his home. Asun's dream of going to college and becoming a poet gradually faded away from here. Asun resented Gwan-sik because he had promised to give her everything, promised to pick the moon and stars for her, so now he should think of a way. Gwan-sik hugged Asun tightly and cried with her, and then the two of them would have a really crazy plan. When they returned home, Asun took the dress of her stepfather's mistress to wear. In addition, she stole some jewelry to bring with her because it was the money she deserved. She also did not forget to bring her mother's portrait. Meanwhile, Gwan-sik stole a bunch of jewelry from his grandmother. Until now, he was still trembling with fear, but for Asun, he could do anything. The two of them planned to get on a boat to escape to the mainland. They would have no chance to come back here. From now on, they would live and die together. The next morning, the ship's staff wanted to check their residence cards, but they could not present them. The staff began to suspect that they were minors. Gwan-sik planned to bribe him with a ring, but Asun immediately stopped him. She loudly challenged him to just throw them into the sea. He wanted to know what they were to each other. Asun immediately said that they were husband and wife. Then she dragged Gwan-sik away as if nothing had happened. When they reached the mainland, they stopped at a gold shop to sell the jewelry. However, the owner suspected them of stealing the jewelry, so she couldn't buy it back. That night, they went to a motel to ask for permission to stay the night. Asun said that we had just had our wallets picked, so we didn't have any ID or residence cards. Then, Asun asked the owner to take a silver ring to exchange for a room. Standing next to him, his wife was very hospitable. She said that they could pay for the room tomorrow. Then she gave them the room key. Not only that, she also prepared dinner for them along with a bottle of wine. She kept saying that it was completely free. The next morning, the fan in the room was broken in half. It would be a waste for the two of them to lie in a warm room with the alcohol and not do anything to each other. Gwan-sik woke up first and received the room bill. It was 640,000 won in total. But last night, the landlady said it was free. At the same time, Gwan-sik discovered that the bag containing their jewelry had disappeared. He and Asun went down to report this to the landlady, but he said they were clearly up to something. Standing nearby, his wife blatantly added that she didn't see either of them carrying any bag. The husband even threatened to call the police and said he wanted to see how people who ran away from Jeju Island would be dealt with. Gwan-sik wondered how the landlord knew they were from Jeju. Did he steal the bag and see their train tickets in it? Hearing that, he fell silent. Only then did the two of them realize that the landlady had intentionally brought in alcohol last night and made the room warmer so they could sleep soundly so they could steal the bag. However, she was still stubborn and asked where was the evidence. The two of them then sat down to think of a way to get the bag back. Without it now, they were both doomed. At the same time, they saw another woman come in to rent a room. The landlord couple played dirty tricks like last night in order to take the woman's property. After the landlady left, Gwan-sik and Asun sneaked in. They both advised the woman not to drink. If she got drunk, she would lose everything. Moreover, she should not turn off the lights in the room. So that night, the guest kept the lights on all night. Thanks to that, the landlord couple could not do anything rashly. Seeing that the guest did not turn off the lights, they had no choice but to go to bed early. A while later, Asun and Gwan-sik sneaked into the landlord's room to get her bag back, but they couldn't find it. Gwan-sik had to take the landlord couple's money box. As he was about to leave, Asun saw her hairpin on their daughter's head. Asun was about to take it off when the girl woke up and screamed. Gwan-sik managed to escape. Asun didn't, so Gwan-sik was forced to go back. He threw the money box on the side of the road and rushed at the landlord couple. Immediately after, Gwan-sik and Asun were taken to the police station. The police could tell that the two had run away from home, because that morning they had received a missing person notice from Gwan-sik's family with a rather provocative description: a tall, handsome young man, accompanied by a short girl with a sassy mouth. When Gwan-sik's mother received the news, she immediately came here. She immediately asked about the jewelry, because among them was a very valuable golden frog. On this side, the landlady brought the jewelry to the gold shop to sell. At first glance, the boss knew that it did not belong to the landlady, because yesterday a couple had brought the jewelry here to sell. Therefore, the boss did not buy the jewelry. Gwan-sik's mother then came to the landlady's rented room to destroy it so that they could not do business. Gwan-sik's mother kept saying, "Give me back my golden toad, and I'll leave." The landlady burst out laughing, saying it was a frog, not a toad. And that was what Gwan-sik's mother wanted to hear. At this point, the landlady had admitted to taking the golden frog. Now she could not deny it. While the two were fighting, the police were also present. The landlady had reported it to the police, so the landlady could not escape. Moreover, this was the 10th time she had committed the crime, not the first. After getting the bag back, Gwan-sik's mother immediately took A-sun and Gwan-sik back to the island. After this incident, A-sun was officially expelled from school. She now had no choice but to shed tears. Returning home, A-sun was scolded by her uncle for ruining the family's reputation. Once again, he forced A-sun to work in a factory. Now, A-sun had no other choice. Everyone blamed A-sun for ruining Gwan-sik's life. On the other side, Gwan-sik was in a similar situation, but luckily he was not expelled from school. He told his parents that he would marry A-sun, but no one would accept an orphaned daughter-in-law who had not finished high school. The next day, Gwan-sik's mother suddenly came to A-sun. She used sweet words to force A-sun to give up Gwan-sik. She also revealed that Gwan-sik would have won a medal in sports if Gwan-sik hadn't done stupid things. A-sun blamed herself when she heard that. In the past 10 years of being together, A-sun had never heard Gwan-sik say anything he liked. She also didn't know he was so good at sports. Gwan-sik's mother thought that Gwan-sik would lose everything if he were with A-sun. Gwan-sik would lose all his dreams and family. So Gwan-sik's mother asked A-sun to think about Gwan-sik and not take everything away from Gwan-sik anymore. That night, Gwan-sik came to the house to propose to A-sun. What A-sun's uncle wondered was whether Gwan-sik's family would accept such a daughter-in-law, especially Gwan-sik's grandmother, who was a shaman. She always believed that A-sun was the girl haunted by her mother's ghost. At this moment, A-sun rushed out the door. She had been thinking a lot about what Gwan-sik's mother had said, so she refused Gwan-sik's proposal. She kept saying that she would marry someone richer, more handsome, and from a better family than Gwan-sik. A few days later, A-sun decided to go on a blind date with a middle-aged man who had just divorced his wife. His family was very well off, because his family owned many ships on the island. Seeing his attitude and the way he talked, A-sun didn't like him at all. He was boastful and had a patriarchal nature. Moreover, he had 2 children from a previous marriage. He wanted to marry A-sun like he was getting another servant. However, A-sun had no other choice. This was the only way for Gwan-sik to leave her. That night, the neighbors came to criticize Gwan-sik's family. The aunties thought that Gwan-sik's family had ruined A-sun's innocent life. They tried to get rid of A-sun, so that now A-sun had to marry a man with 2 wives. At the same time, Gwan-sik had just returned home and heard everything. He immediately brought a lot of croaker to A-sun's uncle's house. Then he promised that he would never let A-sun go hungry. Gwan-sik did not accept A-sun as the wife of a man who had been married twice. A-sun was smart, talked well, and was cute. Why should she marry such a man? Gwan-sik said, "You don't treat A-sun as well as Gwan-sik. Then why didn't you marry A-sun to Gwan-sik?" On this side, the boat owner Tae-hoon was on a date with A-sun. He looked down on A-sun when he knew about her love affair with Gwan-sik. He believed that these days, couples either spent the night together or did all sorts of things anyway. He wanted to know what had happened to A-sun and Gwan-sik the night they left home. It was obvious that he was concerned about A-sun's virginity. A-sun angrily asked, "What about Tae-hoon?" Tae-hoon already had 2 wives and 2 children. At the same time, Gwan-sik came here. He wanted to take A-sun back, but A-sun didn't want that. Despite that, Gwan-sik still tried to pull A-sun away. At the canola field, Gwan-sik put on his wedding ring to propose to A-sun, but A-sun firmly refused. She didn't want to run away with Gwan-sik anymore. Why was she the only one expelled from school? Why was she the only one being rude? What could Gwan-sik do for her besides fish? And that rich man would send A-sun to college to let A-sun become a poet. Gwan-sik immediately said that he could do the same. He would take the train. He would also build bricks. He would earn money to help A-sun pursue her dream. But A-sun didn't want to hear any more words. She took off her gold ring and threw it into the canola field. A-sun said that she was tired of living a difficult life. She also wanted a rich and comfortable life. Marrying Gwan-sik, A-sun would be treated badly by Gwan-sik's grandmother and mother again. A-sun begged Gwan-sik to forgive her. Since childhood, she had lived in humiliation. Now she did not want to continue living like that. After hearing this, Gwan-sik shed tears. In the end, he decided to let go of A-sun. If doing so made A-sun happy, Gwan-sik would not stubbornly pursue this love anymore. And A-sun couldn't do anything more because she thought it would be good for Gwan-sik, even though she said such cruel words. But the next morning, A-sun returned to the canola field to find the ring. But all day long, she could not find it. A-sun could only cry in despair. The ring disappeared without a trace. Just like A-sun, and Gwan-sik's unfinished love. The next day, Gwan-sik boarded a boat to go to the mainland. His mother sold a lot of fish so he could transfer to the mainland. The teacher beside him kept encouraging Gwan-sik. This was Gwan-sik's chance to change his life. On the mainland, Gwan-sik would have the chance to pursue the sport he loved. The teacher was very proud because Gwan-sik was the only student who could run 100 laps around the field. As long as he went to the mainland, Gwan-sik would definitely get a gold medal. But Gwan-sik said that he didn't love sports. He ran 100 laps for A-sun because A-sun said she wanted to go to the mainland. Gwan-sik wasn't good at studying, so he thought that winning a gold medal would give him a chance to go to the mainland. That's why Gwan-sik ran 100 laps. Who would be crazy enough to run 100 laps? Hearing that, the teacher was speechless. He asked, so now that A-sun was gone, why would Gwan-sik go to the mainland? Gwan-sik didn't answer. He just thought about what he said the night before. A-sun said that if Gwan-sik wasn't here, then A-sun could live. That was why Gwan-sik decided to go to the mainland. Below the ship, Gwan-sik's mother and grandmother kept waving goodbye to him, but Gwan-sik didn't even look at them once. His eyes were only waiting for A-sun. Gwan-sik hoped that A-sun would reconsider and come and stop him. Meanwhile, A-sun and Tae-hoon were ordering wedding dresses, but in her mind at that moment, there was only Gwan-sik's image. A-sun recalled the memories of that year. When A-sun got 100 points on her test, everyone asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up. A-sun said that she wanted to be the chief of a fishing village and then the president. Everyone turned to ask Gwan-sik about his dream when he grew up. He said that he wanted to be the first gentleman. After hearing that, everyone couldn't help but laugh. Thinking of this, A-sun decided to cancel her wedding with Tae-hoon. When the clock struck 10 o'clock, Gwan-sik's train was about to depart. A-sun didn't think about anything anymore. She ran out of the tailor shop in the pouring rain mixed with tears. This was her last chance to see Gwan-sik. But when A-sun arrived, it was too late. The train was getting farther and farther away, and A-sun's call was too small in the vast ocean and sky. Everyone who witnessed it felt sorry for A-sun and Gwan-sik's unfortunate love. But somehow, Gwan-sik still felt the call of his lover. He looked towards the mainland and saw a small figure of A-sun. Gwan-sik immediately begged the captain to turn the ship back. But how could the captain do that? There was no other way. Gwan-sik had to do it himself. Everyone standing on the shore saw someone fall into the boat, but then they realized it was Gwan-sik. He swam like a whale. While everyone stood cheering for Gwan-sik, his family was stunned. They knew that this undying love could no longer be stopped. Just like that, Gwan-sik swam amidst the cheers of everyone. If it weren't for love, how could a young man swim so fast? The distance he swam was too far, making Gwan-sik gradually exhausted. But for A-sun, Gwan-sik would not give up. In the end, Gwan-sik succeeded amidst the cheers of everyone. After reaching the shore, Gwan-sik immediately hugged A-sun. A-sun was both happy and worried when she saw Gwan-sik return like that. But for A-sun, he could do anything as long as he could be with A-sun. Not long after, the two went to choose a wedding dress. Gwan-sik's mother wanted A-sun to choose a simple suit to save money, but A-sun wanted a gorgeous white dress. Seeing this, Gwan-sik immediately told A-sun to just take the dress she liked. After that, the two of them just smiled and talked to each other. They didn't notice that behind them, Gwan-sik's mother was so angry that she couldn't breathe. She muttered that if they had so much money to waste, it would be best for them to live separately. So a simple but happy wedding took place. Only later did everyone know that when the wedding was held, A-sun was pregnant. The pregnancy had started when the two of them left home together. So should we thank the landlord couple who prepared wine for them that night? After the happy days, A-sun's unhappy days began again. Gwan-sik's grandmother and mother forced A-sun to kneel 108 times to ask for blessings. In the middle of the hot summer, even sitting in one place, they had to turn on the fan to cool down. But they forced A-sun to kneel until her knees ached. Her mother-in-law also threatened A-sun not to tell Gwan-sik about this. A-sun was also very reasonable. She did not want Gwan-sik to be embarrassed between his wife and mother, so A-sun said that she would keep this a secret. Her grandmother followed behind and kept sprinkling red beans on A-sun. Although A-sun was very upset, she could not resist. When she was alone, A-sun expressed her dissatisfaction. So what if her mother's ghost followed her? Why keep sprinkling red beans on her? What if her mother wanted to come visit her? Her eldest daughter, Geum-myeong, was almost 3 years old. But A-sun's life at her husband's house had never been easy. That day, A-sun visited her mother's old house. But A-sun's aunt and stepfather were also about to move away. Before leaving, the aunt gave A-sun's daughter her bicycle. She also gave A-sun a bunch of old clothes that she didn't wear anymore. That night, the mother-in-law complained when she learned that A-sun had brought corn to her mother's family. At the same time, A-sun also returned. A-sun said that she could exchange 5 ears of corn for a bunch of things. The aunt had left behind a lot of clothes and cosmetics, and they were all branded goods. Seeing the dress that A-sun wore to elope with Gwan-sik, the mother-in-law wanted to throw it away. However, Gwan-sik kept it because it held fond memories for him. As for the bicycle, the grandmother didn't want Geum-myeong to go. She planned to send it to the junkyard to exchange candy. But A-sun really wanted to keep it for her daughter, but she didn't dare to speak her mind. Everyone in and her husband's family was always harsh with Asun because she couldn't give birth to a son, but Gwan-sik was always gentle with his wife. Asun also endured everything just for Gwan-sik. Asun told Gwan-sik that she must keep the bike. Asun wanted Geum-myeong to ride it to explore everything. She didn't want her daughter to just hang around in the kitchen with her grandmother all day. Asun wanted her daughter to be free, to have everything and eat everything. Not someone who only knowed how to set the table, but to turn the table upside down to survive. The next day, Gwan-sik placed the bike in front of the house. This was a hidden act of affirming that he would keep this bike at all costs. Not only that, Gwan-sik also turned to eat at the same table as Asun and her daughter. That was taboo at that time, because in the family there was always a division between seniors and juniors. It was obvious that their family favored sons over daughters. When his mother asked why, Gwan-sik said that he also wanted to eat at the same table as his mother. Seeing her husband protesting for her made Asun very happy. That day, Asun learned that her grandmother was preparing a ceremony for Geum-myeong to become a female diver. Seeing this, Asun was so angry that she flipped the ceremony table. She did not want her daughter to go down that dangerous path. This was the first time everyone saw Asun so angry. She pulled Geum-myeong away, but her mother-in-law did not let her. She angrily slapped Asun painfully. At the same time, Gwan-sik had just returned home. He told his mother and grandmother that Asun came here to live with him, not to marry into this family. With that, Gwan-sik held Asun's hand tightly and left the house. The family of 3 then rented a new house. Now they were a real family. They had freedom and could do what they wanted. Knowing that Geum-myeong liked to eat beans and squid, Asun and Gwan-sik always gave in to their daughter. 10 years ago, Gwan-sik always brought fish to Asun. 10 years later, he always brought squid home for his little daughter. That day was rent day, but the couple still didn't have any money. Gwan-sik was about to choose the right words to tell the landlord, but he said that someone had already paid for the couple's 3 months of rent. The landlord also said that if they kept paying on time, he would give them more meat. The couple lay there wondering who would help them, but they never expected that it would be Asun's aunt. She thought Asun deserved it after many years of working as a maid in her stepmother's house. Not long after, Asun got pregnant again. All the aunts in the neighborhood loved the Asun couple. Whenever they had something delicious, they would bring it over to share with Asun. That day, Asun was shocked to see Gwan-sik come home with a bandaged arm. She blamed him for not taking a day off work when he was like that. Gwan-sik could only keep quiet because he did not know how to explain to Asun. Just for the money to support his family, he had done everything to work. Asun felt that Gwan-sik had been sleeping in a lot lately. Then she saw that his body was covered with wounds. Asun felt something was wrong because the boat owner was Tae-hoon, the person Asun had broken off their engagement with years ago. That day, Asun personally went to Tae-hoon's house, but he wasn't home. Asun only met his wife. Looking at the wife with the wounds on her lips, Asun understood what kind of person Tae-hoon was. Through the wife's story, Asun learned that Tae-hoon often beat Gwan-sik. She also didn't understand why Tae-hoon only targeted Gwan-sik. On this side, because it was the end of the working day, Gwan-sik wanted to go home, but Tae-hoon didn't allow it. He forced Gwan-sik to stay and drive the boat. However, Gwan-sik didn't want to drive the boat, so he insisted on going home. Tae-hoon ran after him and snatched the basket of ink from Gwan-sik's hand. Tae-hoon said that it was his ink, so he wouldn't let Gwan-sik take it. Tae-hoon tried to make trouble because of his anger from the past. Gwan-sik took Asun from Tae-hoon. Then Tae-hoon continued to beat Gwan-sik. At the same time, Asun was there. She ran and shouted loudly to stop Tae-hoon. After that, Asun grabbed Gwan-sik's hand and went home. At the same time, she didn't want him to work for that scoundrel anymore. After walking a distance, Asun angrily turned back and kicked Tae-hoon. Tae-hoon controlled most of the boats on the island, so it was difficult for Gwan-sik to find a job. Gwan-sik had to quit his job as a sailor and go to work at a construction site. Getting used to the new job was also very difficult, so Gwan-sik's hands were always full of injuries. There was little work at the construction site, so Gwan-sik often had time off. He sat and thought about how to earn money to support his family. Asun knew what was on Gwan-sik's mind, so she comforted him by saying that it was Gwan-sik's vacation. Besides, Asun could earn money for Gwan-sik too, but how could Gwan-sik rest? Because now the family was about to welcome a new member. With no other choice, Asun went to her grandmother to borrow money. Asun wanted to buy Gwan-sik a private boat to go fishing, but she couldn't open her mouth to say it. Asun's tears kept falling. Even though Asun didn't say it, her grandmother understood her granddaughter's difficulties. That day, her grandmother personally came to Asun's house. She gave her a large sum of money to buy a boat. This was the money she earned from selling rice before she evacuated. She had kept it a secret for a long time because she was afraid that Asun's uncle would find out. The reason she gave Asun that large sum of money was because of Asun's mother. Before Gwang-rai passed away, Gwang-rai asked her mother-in-law to help Asun. Gwang-rai knew that Asun would never come to her grandmother for help, but if Asun did so, she must be in a very difficult situation. Therefore, Gwang-rai asked her mother-in-law to help Asun just once if Asun came. Now, her grandmother wanted A-sun to take that money. Only then would she be able to close her eyes when she passed on to the other world. Only then could she face her son and daughter-in-law with peace of mind. Sitting next to, Gwan-sik promised to A-sun's grandmother, "We will live well." Seeing her granddaughter marry such a good husband, the grandmother was also very happy. When A-sun was with her grandmother, she also loved her very much. When A-sun's uncle only bought 5 fish because, except for A-sun, the grandmother always gave the meat of the fish to A-sun to eat. A few days later, A-sun's small family bought a new boat. The surrounding villagers were all happy for the couple. From now on, Gwan-sik would no longer have to endure humiliation to earn money. He also did not need to stay up late or wake up early. He could freely go fishing to support his family. At that moment, A-sun suddenly showed signs of labor. Seeing this, Gwan-sik immediately took a cart to take A-sun to the hospital. And then, the couple had another handsome son. Since the birth of Geum-myeong, the attitude of the mother-in-law and grandmother changed completely. Every day, both of them visited their eldest grandson. They no longer looked coldly at A-sun. Since having the boat, the couple had enough to eat and save. Knowing that A-sun often missed her mother, Gwan-sik bought her old house. Returning to the familiar house, A-sun remembered the moments when she crossed the hill to find her mother. Rain or shine, storm or snow, A-sun still did the same thing. Every day, when there was something new at school, or when she got a good score, A-sun would go to her mother first. Now, living in this house filled with memories, for A-sun, it was like living in her mother's protective arms. A-sun shed tears of extreme happiness. Time passed. The old house was renovated by the couple. A-sun was now pregnant with her 3rd child. In happy times like this, beautiful photos were indispensable as souvenirs. That night, A-sun dreamed of her mother Gwang-rai again. She saw her mopping the floor in front of the house. This was the first time A-sun saw her mother come to her, even though it was only in her dream. A-sun asked her mother, "Are you happy that A-sun and her husband have a better life?" She said that the house next door even bought a truck. Did Gwan-sik think that being a husband was just about getting his wife pregnant? A-sun is about to give birth, but why does Gwan-sik keep catching squid? After A-sun woke up from her dream, she went into labor. It turned out that her mother had come back in her dream to tell A-sun that she was about to give birth. A-sun immediately woke up Geum-myeong to go ask the neighbor for help. Immediately after, A-sun was taken to the hospital by the neighbor in the truck that her mother had mentioned in her dream. Once again, A-sun gave birth to a healthy son for Gwan-sik. This made her husband's family even happier. Not long after, A-sun was trusted by the villagers to be the deputy village chief. Taehoon was elected the village chief. Once again, the word deputy haunted A-sun's life. When she was 10 years old, she had been the deputy class chief, and now she was the deputy village chief. The people in the fishing village had a concept that women were not allowed on the boat, but Gwan-sik was different. For him, family came first. He didn't care about those old-fashioned things. Gwan-sik pulled A-sun and her daughter Geum-myeong onto the boat because every member of the family was a blessing in Gwan-sik's life. A-sun had good handwriting, so she was tasked with writing the name of the boat. They agreed to name the boat after their youngest son, Dong-myeong. They hoped that life would become brighter in the future. The boat would also have more luck with that name, but things didn't work out that way. The sky couldn't stay blue forever, and that was the dark summer of A-sun and Gwan-sik. That day, a storm suddenly came. Gwan-sik wasn't home. Jeju-myeong's daughter had not yet returned from school. At that time, her youngest son, Dong-myeong, went to get some candy. Because Dong-myeong was reaching for the candy jar on the high cabinet with his bare hands, he dropped the box of candy on the floor. Seeing this, A-sun scolded her son for having to finish the soup before he could eat candy. Just then, a little girl ran in to tell A-sun that Geum-myeong had just fallen off her bike. Hearing this, A-sun panicked and ran to her daughter. A-sun also asked the neighbor to watch over the 2 children next door. Seeing her wave, A-sun thought she had heard, but in fact, she was dozing off, and her wave was just to shoo away flies. When A-sun arrived, her daughter Geum-myeong was only slightly injured. When she returned home, A-sun saw her neighbor sleeping on the floor. She woke her up to ask about the 2 children, but she said she didn't know anything. A-sun and Geum-myeong ran into the house in panic but couldn't find the 2 children. After searching the whole house for a while, 2 neighbors brought Eun-myeong back. A-sun immediately asked Eun-myeong about Dong-myeong. Eun-myeong immediately said that he was still at home. Hearing this, was truly shocked. She immediately ran to find her youngest son in the middle of the stormy sky. Gwan-sik was working on a dike to prevent floods when he received this bad news. Immediately, he and the villagers split up to look for Dong-myeong. A moment later, a woman reported that the boy had been found. However, Dong-myeong had left this world forever. In the heavy rain, A-sun hugged her son tightly. Now she still couldn't believe that she had just lost a son. The tears mixed with the rain made everyone who witnessed it feel heartbroken. Gwan-sik rushed to the scene, but was also stunned. The sky that day seemed to collapse before their eyes. Gwan-sik screamed with each wake. The family that was filled with laughter yesterday was no longer there. In the following days, A-sun and Gwan-sik no longer wanted to eat or drink anything. This pain was too great for them to overcome. A-sun always blamed blamed herself. If she had brought her son with her that day, none of this would have happened. The next day, Gwan-sik opened Geum-myeong's school bag. She got a perfect score on her test, but she was in no mood to show it to her parents. She didn't even tell anyone about the tuition fee deadline. When Gwan-sik asked his daughter about this, Jeju burst into tears. Jeju felt partly at fault for her brother's death. If Geum-myeong had listened to her parents and not cycled during the storm that day, things would have been different. Outside, her younger brother Eun-myeong also felt guilty. If he hadn't run off to find his mother alone that day, if he had stayed home with his brother, he wouldn't have died. Hearing this, Gwan-sik felt very guilty. He had 2 other young children. If he had collapsed, who would his children rely on? Gwan-sik immediately ate several bowls of rice. He wanted to show his children something positive. He didn't want to keep feeling that pain, because he still had a wife and 2 children, and their families still had to go on living. Time passed. Gwan-sik's family life returned to normal. Only the pain in his heart could not be cured. Every meal, Asun always offered her youngest son a bowl of rice and a little candy that he loved. Asun constantly blamed herself, thinking Dong-myeong ended up that way because of her. It was because of Asun that her son came to the breakwater. Because ever since Dong-myeong was little, Asun often carried her son to the breakwater to wait for their father to come home. Asun always told the children, "If you wait here, I will come back. No matter how windy or rainy it is, I will come back to you." Gwan-sik immediately hugged Asun. He kept saying it wasn't Asun's fault. No one in family was at fault. When Asun returned home, she saw her kitchen full of food. Good neighbors were always like that. Whenever a couple had a hard time, they wanted to share. Seeing this scene really touched Asun. Even before, when the couple rented a house from the old couple, the old lady always quietly brought rice to Asun. She knew that if she gave too much, Asun wouldn't accept it. So every night, she would bring a little rice and pour it into the bin for Asun. It was just enough for Asun to cook the next meal without her noticing. Time passed quickly. Geum-myeong had now become a young woman. Today she returned home with a university admission notice in her hand. The news made the parents extremely happy. Now, Geum-myeong could replace Asun in fulfilling her dream of going to college. That day, the couple attended their daughter's entrance ceremony. There, the beautiful Geum-myeong caught Young-beom's eye. Young-beom even volunteered to take pictures of Geum-myeong's family, but he was only focused on taking pictures of Geum-myeong's face. When he returned home, Gwan-sik was extremely angry with those pictures. Meanwhile, Asun burst out laughing at tricks of today's kids. Gwan-sik kept objecting to Young-beom's relationship with his beloved daughter. In response, Asun said that back then, he had dragged someone else's daughter away, and now he didn't want to let his own daughter go. Meanwhile, Geum-myeong and Young-beom were also going on their first dates. He was as honest as Gwan-sik when he was young. Geum-myeong was just like his mother Asun. That day, Asun dressed up beautifully with a flower pot in her hand to go to her son Eun-myeong's school. Asun thought it was a parent-teacher meeting of the class committee, so she was very excited. At that moment, Eun-myeong's homeroom teacher came out. Then he took Asun to see something. Teacher's cars were all missing some letters, and the culprit was none other than Eun-myeong. After hearing that, Asun could only bow her head and apologize for her son in embarrassment. After that, Asun immediately took off the Vice Village banner on the flower pot to save face. She had expected the parent-teacher meeting to be a proud moment, but it ended up turning out like this. Over here, Geum-myeong was leaving school when a guy came by car to pick her up. The girls on the rooftop were curious if he was Jeum-myeong's boyfriend. Jeum-myeong knew her friends were gossiping about her, so she turned around to wave at them. Jeum-myeong provoked the people who had looked down on her, but in fact, this guy was not Geum-myeong's boyfriend. At the fishing village, Tae-hoon was trying to bribe everyone because the election for the new village chief was coming up. Tae-hoon treated everyone to a big meal. Tae-hoon wanted to do everything he could to defeat Asun, who was competing fiercely with Tae-hoon for the village chief position. That night, Tae-hoon secretly dated his mistress. Tae-hoon's lustful nature had never changed. While Tae-hoon and his mistress were making love, they were caught red-handed by Asun and the villagers. At this point, Tae-hoon's efforts to bribe the villagers were all in vain. And then, the person elected as village chief was none other than Asun. All the villagers were happy. Asun was the first female village chief on this beautiful island. Gwan-sik's dream had now come true. He had become the first husband of the female village chief. Because he was so happy, Asun got very drunk today. After 30 years, the word deputy no longer haunted Asun's life. Now, what Asun wanted most was to brag to her mother about this. If she could go back, Asun would still want to go back. She wanted to hold her mother's hand just once, or simply tell her mother about her happy life now. The next day, Asun made a big batch of rice cakes to treat everyone in the neighborhood. They were the people who had always silently helped Asun since she was little. Now Asun wanted everyone to go around bragging on her mother's behalf. The aunts couldn't believe it either. The little girl from back then was now the village chief. It seemed like on the other side of the world, Asun's mother was also smiling when she saw her daughter like that. Outside, her son Eun-myeong was having his first kiss stolen by his classmate. On this side, Jeum-myeong was picked up by that guy at school school like usual. Seeing her classmates, Jeum-myeong deliberately ignored them to tease them. In fact, this guy was just a driver for a rich woman. The driver picked up Geum-myeong to go to her house to tutor the rich woman's daughter. When they arrived, Geum-myeong sat there and ate noodles as comfortably as if she were a family member. She taught without any books, because the rich woman's daughter didn't want to study. After class, Jeum-myeong came to get her wages in a jar. The rich woman left it there as if she was testing Geum-myeong. The maid told Geum-myeong to take the whole thing and never come back. At this time, the rich woman called. The rich woman wanted to see Geum-myeong right away. The maid knew what was going on, so she told Geum-myeong to go home. However, Geum-myeong decided to stay. A while later, the rich woman returned. There, she made a deal with Jeum-myeong. The rich woman's stupid daughter was going to take her final exams, so she asked Jeum-myeong to take the exam in her daughter's place. In return, the rich woman would give her a 120 square meters apartment in Seoul. The rich woman even prepared fake exam papers for Geum-myeong. However, Geum-myeong knew that this action was illegal, so she firmly refused the rich woman's offer. At the same time, Gwan-sik suddenly came to visit his daughter without notice. There, he met Geum-myeong's boyfriend, but neither of them recognized each other. Young-beom also secretly visited Jeum-myeong. He was also holding a bouquet of flowers to give to her. A moment later, Young-beom suddenly remembered that this uncle was Geum-myeong's father. Young-beom immediately went to greet Gwan-sik as his father-in-law in a loud voice. Only then did Gwan-sik remember this young man. But from the beginning, Gwan-sik did not have any sympathy for this young man. Gwan-sik said, "I'm not Young-beom's father. Why did you call me father?" After hearing that, Young-beom could only keep silent. On the other side, after Jeum-myeong refused the rich woman's offer, she went to take another handful of money and left. Outside, the security guard suddenly ran over and pulled Geum-myeong back. He asked if Jeum-myeong had stolen something from the rich woman's house. He asked her to quickly take it out, not to make him make a big deal out of it. Jeum-myeong thought it was the money she had just taken, so she gave it to the security guard. She said that this was the money she deserved, but what the security guard wanted to ask for was not the money but the diamond ring. Hearing this, Jeum-myeong froze. She knew very well that she had been tricked by the rich woman. Geum-myeong then went back and knocked on the door, but the rich woman did not answer. Only then did Geum-myeong realize how scary life is when she is away from her parents. Not long after, Geum-myeong was taken to the police station. They searched her bag but could not find the diamond ring. Meanwhile, Geum-myeong kept insisting that she did not take it. The police wanted to call Geum-myeong's father, but Geum-myeong refused to give him her father's phone number. She did not want her parents to worry. On the other side, Gwan-sik and Young-beom were still waiting for Jeum-myeong, but Jeum-myeong still didn't come back. Young-beom was really anxious because he was about to return to his unit. Sitting next to him, Gwan-sik asked Young-beom if they were dating, but Young-beom said, "I was dumped. But this isn't the first time, because Jeum-myeong dumped me 8 times already." Gwan-sik was curious why Jeum-myeong didn't like Young-beom. Gwan-sik thought that Young-beom must have treated Geum-myeong badly. Jeum-myeong looked up to her father as a role model, so Jeum-myeong had very high standards. Young-beom explained that Jeum-myeong kept dumping him and then coming back. Jeum-myeong kept saying that maybe the dead cow had cursed Young-beom or something. Why was he so quiet like a clam? Hearing this, Gwan-sik was truly speechless. That was the catchphrase that his wife A-sun often said to Gwan-sik in the past. Gwan-sik suddenly realized that Jeum-myeong was following in her mother's footsteps. Jeum-myeong would never be able to break away from this young man. At the same time, the maid took the diamond ring from the rich woman's room. Then she pretended that she had just found it on the floor. The maid told the rich woman to call the police and report that she had found the diamond ring, but the rich woman refused to do so. The maid threatened to throw it down. At this point, the rich woman had no choice but to do as the maid said. It turned out that the maid was the woman who had rented the room in the past. At that time, thanks to Gwan-sik and A-sun, the maid avoided being robbed by the landlady. Now the maid helped Geum-myeong because she looked very similar to A-sun that year. But there was one thing that the maid could not have expected. The tutor was the daughter of the couple who had helped the maid that year. After Jeum-myeong was released from the police station, she immediately called her family. She blamed her mother when she found out that her mother was still selling seafood at a street stall. Thinking about her mother eating on the street every day made Jeum-myeong unable to bear it. Jeum-myeong advised her mother to open a shop. A-sun said that she needed money to open one. Jeum-myeong also knew that her parents did not have money because they were supporting her education. At this time, A-sun asked her daughter if she had met her father. It turned out that Gwan-sik had received an award for saving a drowning person, so he got an invitation to visit the museum on the mainland. He said that if he had time, he would come to see Geum-myeong. Returning to the dormitory, Geum-myeong saw her father waiting for her to return and burst into tears. Actually, Gwan-sik had skipped the museum trip today. As soon as he arrived on the mainland, Gwan-sik immediately went to find his little daughter. Right after that, Gwan-sik took Geum-myeong out to eat. As usual, Gwan-sik took out his own ink to save for his daughter. Here, Geum-myeong revealed to her father that she had quit her part-time job. Previously, Previously, Geum-myeong was chosen by the school to study abroad, but Geum-myeong did not go, and then the school replaced her with someone else. Geum-myeong wanted to go far and fly high, but then something held Geum-myeong back. The reason why Geum-myeong didn't go abroad to study was because she was afraid of being a burden to her parents. At this moment, Geum-myeong really wanted to apologize, but her mouth didn't listen to reason. She always said harsh words that made her parents sad, but she did that only because she wanted her parents to care less about her so that they would have time to take care of themselves. After eating, Geum-myeong took her father to the bus station. The father and daughter parted in tears. No matter how old Geum-myeong was, she was always their little girl. That day, Geum-myeong saw Youngbaeom off to the train. At this moment, both of them couldn't hold back their tears of separation. Youngbaeom still had 2 more years before he could be discharged from the army. Hearing that, Geum-myeong cried even harder. Youngbaeom told Geum-myeong to wait for him to come back. When he returned, he would definitely marry Geum-myeong. On this side, A-sun was selling goods. A mother brought her son to buy fish. This scene reminded A-sun of her deceased son. When Dong-myeong died, the boy was about the same age, so A-sun did not dare to look directly at him. On the other side, Gwan-sik sat in front of the grocery store and saw 2 boys. This reminded Gwan-sik of Dong-myeong. If the youngest son was still alive, he would be that age now. Gwan-sik immediately bought 2 boys a bunch of sweets. Not long after, A-sun and her familiar neighbors no longer had to sell goods on the street. They had now rented their own store. Coincidentally, this store was the place where A-sun went on a blind date with Tae-hoon. That day, the professor called Geum-myeong. The professor knew that Geum-myeong didn't have money to study abroad, so she wanted to lend Geum-myeong money to study abroad. But Geum-myeong refused. She knew that the professor wasn't rich either. She only accepted her kindness. As for money, she absolutely refused. When she went outside, Geum-myeong called her mother. She told her mother about that kind professor. Hearing that, A-sun wanted to send some tangerines for Geum-myeong to give to the professor. A-sun knew that her daughter really wanted to study abroad, so she wanted to know how much it would cost. But Geum-myeong absolutely refused to reveal it. She didn't want to be a burden to her parents, so Geum-myeong kept saying that she could study here. That night, A-sun discussed this with Gwan-sik. She felt very uncomfortable knowing that her daughter liked something that she couldn't do anything about. Studying abroad was not only Geum-myeong's own dream, but her daughter was also fulfilling that dream for A-sun. A-sun wanted her daughter's future to fly high and far, not to carry a load of goods to the market like A-sun. After thinking for a while, the couple agreed to sell this house that contained many memories. At the same time, they also collected all the money they had saved to send Geum-myeong to study abroad. After selling the house, the family moved to an apartment nearby. Although the house was a bit old, it was not a problem for the couple. At the same time, Geum-myeong was on the flight to Japan. She couldn't stop crying when she saw the large amount of money her parents had spent to help her achieve her dream. Her younger brother, Eun-myeong, was angry that their parents sacrificed everything for his older sister. He was scolded by his parents every day. Gwan-sik told his son to look at his head. He couldn't even keep his hair normal. On top of that, his studies were not going well. Knowing that A-sun liked flowers, Gwan-sik turned this house into a flower garden. As for A-sun, it didn't matter where she lived, whether it was at her husband's house or in a rented room. As long as she had a husband like Gwan-sik by her side, that was enough. Gwan-sik sighed and said that A-sun should have married into a rich family. A-sun loved books and was good at writing poetry. A-sun was born to be the wife of a rich family. A-sun joked that in this village, there was no girl who wouldn't be jealous of A-sun, who would live in a flower garden like this. After many days of renovation, A-sun's shop was completed. Everyone took a beautiful photo together as a souvenir. This photo was also sent to Geum-myeong. A-sun wanted her daughter to know that her mother no longer had to sell goods on the street so that Geum-myeong could feel more secure. Looking at the family photos made Geum-myeong unable to hold back her tears. She told herself that she would never let her parents' dreams be taken away again. Time flew by in the blink of an eye. Geum-myeong has finished her studies in Japan. She has now returned to her country and is renting a small room in Seoul. The landlord here is also very strict. He warned her that if she brings her boyfriend to her room, he will kick her out immediately. But unexpectedly, the next day, the landlord's daughter brought her boyfriend back. Geum-myeong's room door did not have a latch, so she pulled the fabric cabinet to block it so as not to be disturbed. At this time, the landlord unexpectedly returned. He knocked on the door, but did not hear the daughter answer, so he began to suspect. Her boyfriend had no way out, so he begged Geum-myeong to let him in to hide. Outside, the daughter opened the door to let her father in. The landlord felt very suspicious, so he checked everywhere. He did not even skip Geum-myeong's room. He was about to open the fabric cabinet to check, but Geum-myeong immediately stopped him. Geum-myeong said that it was all her underwear, so there was no need to check. But the landlord already knew what was inside. He told the guy hiding there to come out quickly, and then he slowly walked out. In the same situation, Eun-myeong also brought her girlfriend back to her room today. Coincidentally, the girl was also hiding in the cloth closet. Gwan-sik opened the closet and thought it was some kid because he saw short hair. When the girl looked up. Both Gwan-sik and his wife were shocked because this girl was Taehoon's youngest daughter, and her name was Yumi. That night, Yumi also brought Eun-young home to meet her parents. Taehoon was shocked. He strongly opposed his daughter's boyfriend. This tragicomedy was passed around by everyone in the fishing village. It was truly a tearful love story that spanned 2 generations. The daughter of the man who was abandoned by A Sun now bumped into A Sun's son. After returning to the country, Geum-myeong immediately went to look for a job. There she coincidentally met the boyfriend of the landlord's daughter. Chung-sep was a painter who worked at a movie theater. He was also pasting posters for upcoming movies. Jeum-myeong was looking for a job, so Chung-sep introduced her to a job selling tickets at the theater. That day, a very strange customer came to buy tickets. Jeum-myeong asked him what happened, but he didn't answer a single question. He gave her a lot of coins and a ring. Now Geum-myeong already knew who he was. Jeum-myeong asked a colleague to watch the counter for her. Then she quietly went inside the cinema. Jeum-myeong could not contain her joy when she saw Young-beom appear. The two hugged each other after a long time apart. Young-beom secretly returned to the country because he missed Geum-myeong so much. The moment the two were together caught the eye of the painter Chung-seo. On the way back, Young-beom felt that Geum-myeong's dormitory was very dark and dangerous. He was worried about her, so he told her to move to another area, but Geum-myeong didn't want that. At the same time, Chung-sep also came home. Seeing Chung-sep passing by, Young-beom pulled Geum-myeong into his arms. Geum-myeong then said that Chung-sep was a painter at the cinema where she worked, so Young-beom shouldn't make such a fuss. After that, Young-beom and Geum-myeong continued to argue about whether Geum-myeong should move or stay. Finally, Geum-myeong angrily told Young-beom to go home. She wouldn't show him her house. After saying that, she coldly left first. The next day, Geum-myeong brought a box of dumplings to Chung-seo. Seeing his workplace made her surprised. On his desk was also a collection of Seoul's poetry. Out of curiosity, she lingered to look at it. At the same time, Chung-sep and his girlfriend returned to their room. Chung-sep's girlfriend loudly criticized him for always having no money. They had been dating for 3 years, but she had never eaten at a Western restaurant. Chung-sep had put up with his girlfriend for too long. Even though they were dating, she had gone on 6 blind dates with other men, so he wanted to end the relationship. At that moment, the phone rang inside. Geum-myeong was at a loss as to what to do. Chung-sep's girlfriend walked in, making Geum-myeong extremely embarrassed. Geum-myeong didn't know how to explain herself when she fell into this ironic situation. Chung-sep's girlfriend thought that the two were sneaking around behind her back. On the other hand, Yumi's older brother was furious when he found out that Yumi was dating Eun-myeong. He advised his sister to leave Eun-myeong immediately. Then, he also told her about the bad relationship between their father and Eun-myeong's mother. But Yumi didn't care about adult matters. She only cared about the person she loved. Unable to tell her sister, Yumi's brother went and beat Eun-myeong up. Eun-myeong couldn't take it anymore and wanted to break up. But how could Yumi accept this? She threatened Eun-myeong that she would beat whoever Eun-myeong loved to death. Yumi's father even threatened to shave her head if she dated Eun-myeong. But Yumi wasn't afraid, and so the two still couldn't break up. They defied everything for love. That day, Geum-myeong went to Young-beom's house. She unexpectedly ran into Young-beom's mother there. Looking at the half-heart-shaped key in her hand, Young-beom's mother also knew that her son was dating Geum-myeong. Seeing that Geum-myeong didn't know how to scoop seaweed soup made her even more upset. But that was just an excuse, because she didn't like Geum-myeong from the beginning. She asked Geum-myeong if Geum-myeong's parents knew that she was going in and out of men's houses like this. At the same time, Young-beom returned. Young-beom said that today was his birthday, so he asked Geum-myeong to come here. But his mother interrupted him. She made it clear to Geum-myeong that this house was not Young-beom's but hers. She was the one who bought it, so she hoped that Geum-myeong would not come in and out of this house anymore. When dating, one should know how to date. Sitting next to, Young-beom said, from the beginning, Young-beom and Geum-myeong were dating with the intention of getting married. Hearing this, she told Young-beom to shut up. Young-beom should remember that Young-beom is my pride. Don't date lowly girls. After the meal, Geum-myeong was extremely angry that Young-beom's mother looked down on her so much. Geum-myeong didn't want to grovel to someone who hated her. Geum-myeong hated her groveling and begging appearance. From the beginning, Geum-myeong really wanted to impress Young-beom's mother. However, the more she tried, the more Young-beom's mother hated her. She wanted Young-beom to make a choice. Would he be a good son or a good husband? If Young-beom was going to propose to Geum-myeong, he should decide who to choose. Young-beom said that no man in this world had to decide who to choose. In response, Geum-myeong said that her father had done the same thing. At this point, Young-beom was faced with the most difficult choice of his life. The next day at the cinema, the owner chased away a group of people who were selling black market tickets outside. Among them was a woman who was waiting to buy official tickets, but seeing the chaos, she had to leave. Geum-myeong realized this, so she called her back. When she asked, she found out that she was the mother of the painter Chung-seo. So Geum-myeong gave her a ticket to see the movie the next day, because it was very good. When the boss heard the news, he also gave her many other tickets because it was thanks to Chung-sup that the theater could survive. The next day, Chung-sup's mother came to see the movie that Geum-myeong mentioned. Seeing her like that, Chung-sup felt very grateful to Geum-myeong, but he didn't know how to repay her. Geum-myeong said that Chung-sup should paint her a picture. Who knows, it might become as valuable as Picasso's paintings in the future. Chung-sup's mother was very happy after watching the movie. She excitedly told her son every detail of the movie. Knowing that Geum-myeong was taking extra classes at an English center, Chung-sup's mother took her to her photocopy shop. She gave Geum-myeong a bunch of extra English books that customers had printed as a thank you. She gave Geum-myeong so many that Geum-myeong couldn't take them home, and then Chung-sup helped her do it. On the way home, Chung-sup invited Geum-myeong to have a bowl of noodles as a thank you. Geum-myeong asked Chung-sup to help her explain what had happened that day instead. Geum-myeong didn't want Chung-sup's girlfriend to misunderstand the relationship between Chung-sup and Geum-myeong, but Chung-sup said that his girlfriend was getting married to someone else. She misunderstood on purpose to ease her guilt, and the person she was going to marry was very rich. Geum-myeong advised Chung-sup to hold on to his girlfriend. That way, Chung-sup wouldn't feel regretful later. The TV station was reporting the news. A 13-year-old girl was murdered in Hanyang Ward. That was the area where Geum-myeong lived. Hearing the news, A-sun called to ask about her daughter, but the landlord said that Geum-myeong hadn't returned yet. Here A-sun remembered the story from the past. At that time, A-sun had gone to collect firewood and was attracted by a rare black dragonfly. A-sun had chased it and had seen a woman waiting for a taxi on the side of the road. The woman had called A-sun over and had asked her to exchange a large coin for 10 coins so she could pay for the taxi. Seeing that her leg was hurting, A-sun had been ready to help. After A-sun had returned, she had given A-sun a coin as thanks. Then she had asked A-sun to exchange a large denomination bill for some coins, but the place to exchange this time was different from the last time. A-sun had hurriedly run to the place she had pointed out. There was a man sitting in a truck waiting for A-sun. At the same time, A-sun's mother had suddenly appeared to stop her. Seeing this, the man had started the engine and ran away. A-sun immediately told her mother everything. When they returned to pay, the woman had disappeared. Beside, there was her crutch. It turned out to be a setup to kidnap A-sun. A mother's instinct was always like that, always sensing danger to her child, and always appearing at the right time when her child needed her. A-sun felt uneasy about Geum-myeong, so she called again. At this time, Geum-myeong had arrived home. A-sun immediately blamed Geum-myeong for coming home so late recently. Then she asked if the light in the dark alley had been changed. A-sun reminded her daughter to come home early wherever she went. Because the landlord was difficult, Geum-myeong could not talk to her mother for long. She immediately reassured her mother and hung up for fear of disturbing the landlord. That night, A-sun had another haunting dream. She dreamed of Geum-myeong falling off her bike. Next was the death of her youngest son Dong-myeong. These things made A-sun feel uneasy for her daughter, who was living alone in the city. A mother's instinct told her that something was wrong. The next day, in the freezing cold of winter, A-sun went to Geum-myeong's room, alone. She was shocked to see her daughter lying motionless on the floor. She smelled poisonous gas coming from the broken heating pipe under the floor. A-sun kept calling her daughter to wake up. Then she called an ambulance for Geum-myeong. Coincidentally, Chung-sup was also there. Knowing what happened, he immediately carried Geum-myeong out onto the street because the car could not enter this small alley. A-sun was still worried about her little daughter. Luckily, Geum-myeong was not in any danger. Knowing what happened, Young-beom rushed over. Seeing Young-beom taking care of Geum-myeong, A-sun had remembered what Gwan-sik did to her. Young-beom didn't want to see Geum-myeong living alone without anyone to take care of her, so he wanted to marry her. Young-beom even brought the ring here. Now all Geum-myeong needed to do was agree. Young-beom promised to do his best to convince his mother. From now on, Geum-myeong just needed to please Young-beom's mother a little, but Geum-myeong's nature couldn't do that. Hearing this, A-sun was not happy at all. A-sun didn't want her daughter to suffer the same rejection by her husband's family as A-sun had done before. A-sun went to question Young-beom that what was wrong with my Geum-myeong, why Young-beom's mother rejected A-sun's precious child. Sometime later, Eun-myeong went to join the army. Seeing the diary that Yumi sent made Eun-myeong unable to hold back her tears. A-sun cried because she didn't want to leave her son like this. She wanted Eun-myeong to choose the path of university instead of joining the army. At the same time, Chung-sup quit his job at the cinema because he also had to join the army. But Geum-myeong didn't understand why Chung-sup didn't say goodbye to her even once. After all, they were friends. Why did Chung-sup leave without saying anything? Then Geum-myeong went into Chung-sup's room. She was curious about the last picture he drew. Geum-myeong opened it and was surprised to see that it was a portrait of herself. Chung-sup kept his promise. But unexpectedly, Chung-sup drew Geum-myeong. In fact, Chung-sup had already developed feelings for Geum-myeong. Those feelings started when they were chatting on the way home, but Geum-myeong couldn't realize it. The love story between Geum-myeong and Young-beom was still going well. Geum-myeong decided to choose Young-beom, even though Young-beom's mother didn't like Geum-myeong at all. That day, the two families had a meeting. Geum-myeong's parents arrived arrived very early, but Geum-myeong's family was still nowhere to be seen. Gwan-sik kept telling his daughter to cancel the appointment. Just then, Yeong-beom arrived. He bowed his head and apologized because of the traffic jam today. At the same time, Yeong-beom's parents walked in. Geum-myeong kept asking, but Yeong-beom's mother ignored her. A-sun knew that, so she was not happy at all. While the two families were discussing the wedding, Geum-myeong went to serve soup to everyone. In order to please Yeong-beom's mother, she had tried very hard. There were things that Geum-myeong had never done at home. Geum-myeong gave everyone full bowls of soup while she only ate the remaining soup. Seeing this scene made A-sun unable to bear it. A-sun knew that her daughter had learned this from her. Then she immediately switched her bowl of soup with Geum-myeong. Yeong-beom's mother was so unreasonable that she only agreed to hold one wedding. She thought that since she was from a prestigious family, she couldn't hold a second wedding on the island. She didn't want her son to go there and play the role of a monkey. Hearing this, Gwan-sik and A-sun could only swallow their anger. They wanted to stop the marriage, but since it was their daughter's decision, they had to respect it. Furthermore, after the wedding, the mother-in-law didn't want Geum-myeong to work. She just needed to stay home and take care of her husband and children. Later, Yeong-beom's parents asked Geum-myeong to get them a bowl of rice water. They treated her like a servant. Seeing this, Gwan-sik subtly signaled Yeong-beom to help Geum-myeong. Yeong-beom then stood up and took over the task for Geum-myeong, but Geum-myeong didn't want that. Seeing this, A-sun had to step in to help both of them. Yeong-beom's mother saw this and said that because Geum-myeong's mother had done everything, her daughter didn't know how to do anything. A-sun had no choice but to endure and apologize to Yeong-beom's mother because she hadn't taught her daughter properly. Because Geum-myeong was too precious, A-sun didn't want her daughter to do anything. After the wedding date was set, the two families went to choose fabric to make clothes. While A-sun really liked pink, Yeong-beom's mother didn't want it. She forced A-sun to wear red bean-colored clothes. She made things difficult for her all the time. Meanwhile, A-sun could only hold her anger inside. Until the last minute, Yeong-beom's mother still wanted to stop this marriage. She thought that A-sun's family was not a good match for hers. Her son Yeong-beom was her treasure her whole life. Even though she tried very hard, she did not like Geum-myeong at all. Therefore, she wanted A-sun to convince her daughter to cancel this marriage. When she returned home, A-sun was extremely angry. She could not let Geum-myeong fall into that family. She thought that Yeong-beom had nothing good to make her daughter fall in love with him like that. In response, Geum-myeong said that what made her better than Yeong-beom. Her mother knew that Geum-myeong wasn't any better than Yeong-beom, which was why she endured Yeong-beom's family. Geum-myeong was angry seeing her mother constantly groveling to Yeong-beom like that. A-sun said that it was because she was afraid that Geum-myeong would be made difficult by her mother-in-law. A-sun held back because she was afraid that her mother-in-law would hate Geum-myeong, not because she thought Geum-myeong was inferior to Yeong-beom. That day, Yeong-beom's mother took her anger out on Geum-myeong again. When she knew that Yeong-beom and Geum-myeong moved out after getting married, she thought that Geum-myeong was trying to break up their mother-son relationship. She continued to scold Geum-myeong, even though Yeong-beom tried to stop her. But at this point, Geum-myeong couldn't bear it anymore. Geum-man also wanted to know what Yeong-beom's mother had said to her mother that day. Yeong-beom's mother said that she had only said a few dignified words to Geum-myeong's mother. In response, Geum-myeong said that she had never said a single dignified word. The reason Geum-myeong endured until now was not because she felt inferior. She endured because she knew how ashamed Yeong-beom was of his mother. During the entire time preparing for the wedding, Geum-myeong's family had behaved more dignifiedly than Yeong-beom's mother. Here, Geum-myeong also complied with her wishes. That was, she would stop the wedding. After saying that, Geum-myeong left angrily. No matter how hard Yeong-beom tried to hold on, she could not endure this marriage anymore. Geum-myeong did not want her parents to cry because of her. After ending her relationship with Yeong-beom, Geum-myeong cried a lot. She had hoped for a happy ending with her first love, but now it turned out like this. In the following days, Yeong-beom kept clinging to Geum-myeong to try to hold on, but she ignored him. Yeong-beom loved Geum-myeong with all his heart, but he couldn't protect her in front of his mother, because his mother raised him and considered him her whole life. For a long time after that, Yeong-beom kept looking for Geum-myeong in the hope of changing her mind. He even spent the night in the car just to wait to see Geum-myeong once. Today was Yeong-beom's birthday, but he went to buy flowers to give to her, because if Geum-myeong accepted it, it would be like a gift for him. But no matter what Yeong-beom did, it was too late. This love would never be restored. In the end, Yeong-beom and Geum-myeong gave each other a tight hug, a hug that ended this 7-year love affair. In the following days, Geum-myeong was extremely sad. She felt like she had lost half of her soul. Her parents were very worried about Geum-myeong, but couldn't do anything. But they believed that Geum-myeong would definitely overcome this pain. Geum-myeong also knew that she couldn't stay like this forever. She didn't want her parents to worry about her. Therefore, today, Geum-myeong suddenly came home without notice. Her parents were very happy to see their daughter return home. Seeing her daughter so thin made A-sun very heartbroken. Soon after, A-sun cooked a lot of delicious food for Geum-myeong. The warm family atmosphere soothed Geum-myeong's wounded heart. Early the next morning, Gwan-sik went into the room to wake Geum-myeong up. Then, he took Geum-myeong out to sea on his fishing boat. Gwan-sik knew that his daughter was hurt after breaking up with her deep love. Therefore, he wanted to show her the sunrise. Gwan-sik wanted to use the sunrise to tell his daughter that no matter how bad yesterday was, the next day, the sunrise would still appear. Gwan-sik believed that no matter how difficult it was, Geum-myeong could overcome it. Only then did Geum-myeong realize how hard her father's daily life was. He had to sit alone in the middle of the sea despite cold and storm. Geum-myeong asked how her father could endure it. Gwan-sik said, "If I sleep a little less, you can sleep a little more. That's how I stay awake." Geum-myeong felt choked up. She wanted to thank her father, but somehow the words were buried deep in her throat. In the end, Geum-myeong could only say words of reproach. She wanted her father to pay more attention to his health and not just worry about Geum-myeong and her younger brother, because the two sisters were grown up now. At this time, the sun had already risen high in the sky. Both father and daughter looked towards it, but for Geum-myeong, there were two suns in front of her. Father is another sun in Geum-myeong's life. Her father always shines and watches over her every step. Because the engagement was broken off, Geum-myeong was always afraid of other people's eyes. She was afraid of people judging her. Hearing that, her mother revealed a secret to her. She had never sent those pink invitations to anyone because she knew that sooner or later her daughter would break off the engagement. Her mother understood Geum-myeong better than she understood herself. Aesun always insisted that Geum-myeong had done nothing wrong. Geum-myeong should feel lucky to have avoided that pile of shit. Her mother comforted Geum-myeong by saying that first loves always end in failure. Her mother believed that Geum-myeong would find a better guy than Young-beom, but Geum-myeong knew that her mother would never understand her feelings because her mother was living with her first love. Speaking of this, Geum-myeong felt very jealous of her parents. Geum-myeong also wanted her mother to pursue her dream again, that was writing poetry, but Aesun said that she still wrote poetry every day. Geum-myeong looked in the direction her mother pointed. She discovered that the book of poems her mother was talking about was actually a daily household expense book. Not long after that, it was time for Geum-myeong to return to the city. After all, her life had to go on because she had a long future ahead of her. After Geum-myeong left, her parents returned home and felt very empty. On the table were the gifts that Geum-myeong had prepared in advance to give to her parents: a new notebook for her mother Aesun to write poems, a box of sunscreen for her father Gwan-sik every time he went to sea. Aesun hugged her daughter's gift to her chest. She scolded her daughter. Who needed Geum-myeong to do that? Parents always gave their children a lot without expecting anything in return. But children only needed to give a small gift to make their parents happy. Today, Gwan-sik's younger sister came to visit Aesun. She always blamed her sister-in-law for taking away her brother. Now, she had to take care of her old mother alone, which was very difficult. The neighbor's auntie heard that and was very upset. Taking care of an old mother was difficult? How ridiculous. She made her old mother take care of her young children. Aesun knew that too, but she didn't blame her younger sister-in-law at all. Now the younger sister-in-law had revealed her true nature. She flattered her older sister-in-law to buy some of the products she was selling. It was obvious that she was selling multi-level marketing products at sky-high prices. Although she was not rich, Aesun still bought 2 spring mattresses for her younger sister-in-law. After that, Aesun also gave her younger sister-in-law a mattress. Aesun wanted to give it to her mother-in-law. Aesun knew that her mother-in-law had back pain. If she lay on this mattress, she would feel more comfortable. This action of Aesun made her younger sister-in-law feel somewhat embarrassed. Before her younger sister-in-law left, Aesun still encouraged her to live a good life. At this time, Gwan-sik was also going home to visit his mother. His mother kept complaining her own son was only taking care of his wife. Gwan-sik really wanted to take his mother back to live with him, but now she had to stay here to help her daughter take care of her grandchildren. Even though she said those words of reproach, deep down, she felt sorry for Gwan-sik and his wife. She understood the pain of losing parents, but could not understand the pain of losing a child. She knew that Gwan-sik and his wife had a hard time. Hearing this, Gwan-sik could not help but feel heartbroken, because in his heart, Gwan-sik had never gotten over the pain of losing his son. Not long after, when Gwan-sik left, Gwan-sik's younger sister also returned. She gave her mother the mattress that Aesun had given her mother. Seeing the mattress, Gwan-sik's mother could not help but feel heartbroken. She had never treated her daughter-in-law well, but Aesun treated her well. That day was Aesun's grandmother's birthday. Grandmother was old and absent-minded, so she could not recognize anyone. But when Aesun arrived, her grandmother immediately recognized her granddaughter. This surprised everyone. Her grandmother was very happy to know that Aesun was still living well. Just hearing that was enough to make her feel at ease. Aesun wanted to bring her grandmother to live in her house, but her grandmother didn't want that. Seeing that her grandmother's teeth were about to fall out, Aesun promised that when spring came, she would make her grandmother a set of dentures. Now, Aesun had almost saved enough money to make her grandmother's teeth. Aesun wanted to repay the kindness because back then, grandma had helped her grow grow new teeth. At that time, Asun cried because she was afraid of the pain. Although her grandmother always encouraged Asun that it wouldn't hurt, Asun didn't believe what her grandmother said. Seeing that, Gwan-sik also tied a thread to his tooth. Gwan-sik wanted to do it for him first, to prove to Asun that tooth extraction doesn't hurt. Although Gwan-sik was also very scared and his teeth were not loose yet, Gwan-sik was still able to endure it because of Asun. Seeing this, Asun's grandmother couldn't help but laugh. She asked Asun where she found this idiot. Before Asun could answer, her grandmother had already pulled out tooth. Just thinking about this made Asun emotional. From now on, Asun wanted to take care of her grandmother more. When Asun returned home, Asun's uncle asked her mother why she didn't come back to Asun's house. Her grandmother said that she couldn't do anything for Asun, but her granddaughter wanted to make dentures for her. Asun even bought her an expensive mattress like this. Hearing this, Asun's uncle said mom had given Asun money to buy a boat, but grandmother still said that she couldn't do anything for Asun. When she was alone, grandmother looked up and asked her son and daughter-in-law, "Now I can go see you guys in peace. I did a good job, right?" After saying that, grandma lay down on the mattress that Asun bought. It was so soft and warm. Thanks to that, grandma left this world peacefully. Asun hadn't even kept her promise to fix grandma's teeth, but grandma left her forever, and that was also the saddest autumn in Asun's life. Seeing the people around her leave one by one, Asun felt very scared. Asun was afraid that one day her husband Gwan-sik would also leave her behind. Asun hoped that she and Gwan-sik would leave together. That way, no one would be left behind to grieve. Today, her son Geum-myeong was discharged from the army. His mother wanted to immediately hug her son, but Geum-myeong stood still. Gwan-sik thought that his son wanted to salute according to military protocol, so he told his son to do so. But Geum-myeong remained still. After that, he kept looking outside. Asun wondered if there was anyone out there. At this moment, a girl walked in. She was Yumi, Taehoon's daughter. Moreover, Yumi was pregnant. Hearing the news, Asun almost fainted. Gwan-sik wanted to hit his son, but couldn't do anything. On the other side, Geum-myeong took a bus home after a long day at work. At the same time, Chung-sup also just returned from his military service. He recognized Geum-myeong and ran after the bus to call her, but Geum-myeong was wearing headphones, so she couldn't hear anything. And then, Chung-sup missed person he had a crush on. That day, Chung-sup and Geum-myeong went to see a movie together. However, they didn't recognize each other, even though they were only a few seats apart. Outside, the boss was upset when he found out that Chung-sup didn't see Geum-myeong. He arranged a seat for him next to her. However, Chung-sup sat somewhere else. Hearing this, Chung-sup ran outside to find Geum-myeong. Once again, he had to chase after the bus she took, but this time, Chung-sup didn't miss Geum-myeong like last time. Chung-sup finally caught up with the bus when it stopped at the next stop. While Geum-myeong slept on the seat, Chung-sup just stood there looking at her without saying anything. A moment later, the driver woke Geum-myeong up because they had reached the final stop. There were only 2 people left on the bus. Seeing Chung-sup in front of her made Geum-myeong think she was dreaming. Chung-sup even kindly gave Geum-myeong his scarf to use as a pillow. Chung-sup told Geum-myeong that he had chased the bus from the cinema. He thought that even if he died running, he would not miss Geum-myeong. Geum-myeong was embarrassed and didn't know what to say. Soon after, the two went to eat together. Seeing Chung-sup's new style made Geum-myeong surprised. Just like that, the two of them looked at each other and smiled shyly. Geum-myeong wondered why they went to the movies at the same time. Chung-sup revealed that he went to the cinema every day. It was just because he wanted to see Geum-myeong again. For some reason, Geum-myeong drank a lot tonight. While she was a little drunk, she accidentally broke a glass on the table. Seeing this, Chung-sup immediately picked up the broken pieces for her. He was very worried when he saw Geum-myeong injured like that. This image reminded Geum-myeong of her father. After a while of talking, the two of them switched to calling each other like lovers, which were sweeter than sugarcane. Chung-sup also revealed to Geum-myeong that back then, every time he had brought books back to Geum-myeong, he had kept thinking about how much he wanted to hold Geum-myeong's hand. And now, Geum-myeong helped him fulfill that wish. From that day on, the two began a serious relationship, a more mature relationship than before. Geum-myeong even brought Chung-sup back to meet her father. Sitting on the ship, Chung-sup kept vomiting because of seasickness. As always, Gwan-sik was wary of the boys who pursued his beloved daughter. Chung-sup also tried very hard to please his father-in-law. Seeing him release the small fish back into the sea, Chung-sup said he was a good fisherman, but Gwan-sik said he was baiting his line to catch a big fish. Gwan-sik asked if he was still a good fisherman. This made Chung-sup speechless on the spot. Even though he was seasick, Chung-sup did not stop following Geum-myeong. Gwan-sik asked Chung-sup why he kept following Geum-myeong. Chung-sup said that he was afraid that Geum-myeong would fall. Gwan-sik then said that if Chung-sup thought that Gwan-sik would let his daughter fall. However, Chung-sup still followed Geum-myeong because he was very worried about her. It was Chung-sup's actions that made Gwan-sik choose Chung-sup as his son-in-law. That night, Gwan-sik asked Chung-sup if Chung-sup could not speak, ride a boat, or even drink a cup of wine. So how could Gwan-sik entrust his daughter to Chung-sup? Because of his honest nature, Chung-sup said that even if Chung-sup wanted to show off, if Gwan-sik did didn't like Chung-sup, then whatever Chung-sup did would be useless. At that time, Jeum-myeong went out and Chung-sup followed her. Gwan-sik asked why Chung-sup was following Jeum-myeong when she went to the bathroom. Chung-sup said that it was too dark and dangerous. Besides, Chung-sup had to give Geum-myeong his coat to keep her warm. Although Gwan-sik said harsh words to Chung-sup, in fact, Gwan-sik had already liked this honest and simple son-in-law. Chung-sup was very disappointed in himself. He didn't know how to win points with Geum-myeong's father. Seeing Geum-myeong come out, Chung-sup put his coat on her. Here, Geum-myeong also teased Chung-sup that Geum-myeong originally belonged to her father, so if Geum-myeong's father didn't approve of Chung-sup, their relationship would be over. Inside, Chung-sup was surprised to know that Jeum-myeong's father had already approved of him. In a drunken state, Chung-sup knelt down and called his father-in-law intimately. Chung-sup even wanted to peel shrimp for his father-in-law to eat. Seeing this made Asun burst out laughing. Moreover, Asun also liked Chung-sup very much because Asun knew that Chung-sup's mother really liked Geum-myeong. Asun was also preparing some honey to give to Chung-sup's mother, who had sent them a gift earlier. When she returned home, Asun opened the gift. Inside was a box of persimmons and a letter. Chung-sup's mother told her that she had visited her parents' house in the fall and she had picked the best persimmons. She had spent the whole season making them. While making them, she thought about Asun and Gwan-sik. She had made and looked at the persimmons every day, just like she looked at the lovely Geum-myeong. Asun had been waiting for those words for a long time. She knew that this was the family her daughter deserved to marry into. Not long after that, Geum-myeong and Chung-sup's wedding took place. Even though Chung-sup was a good guy, Jeum-myeong's parents were still worried about her. At the same time, Yong-beom, her first love, was also there. He had kept his promise to see the person he loved in a wedding dress. The only difference was that the person walking next to her was not him. But seeing Jeum-myeong happy, Yong-beom was happy too. While preparing for the wedding, Jeum-myeong kept telling her father, "Dad, don't cry. If you cry, I'll be very upset." Seeing his daughter nervous, Gwan-sik said, "If there's a problem, stop it right away, then run straight back to me, okay?" With just that one sentence, Gwan-sik reminded Jeum-myeong for the rest of her life. From the moment he had fed Jeum-myeong, Gwan-sik had said the same thing. If Jeum-myeong didn't like it, she shouldn't eat it. Then, on her first day of school, Gwan-sik had said the same thing. Whatever Geum-myeong didn't like, she should just come home to dad. During Geum-myeong's college entrance exam, that legendary saying still held true. If Geum-myeong had a headache and couldn't do the test, then stop. Run outside because dad was waiting for her. Just thinking about it made Geum-myeong unable to hold back her tears. When she entered the wedding hall, she cried even harder. Gwan-sik was no exception. He shed tears when his unrequited love of 30 years was now walking beside another man. That day, Gwan-sik cried even more than Asun. After the wedding, a group of thugs suddenly came to visit. They asked Eun-young about his best friend. Not long after, Eun-young was arrested by the police. Before that, Eun-young and his best friend opened a pawn shop, but then the best friend stole everything and ran away. Now, Eun-young had to take the blame. Among the items that Eun-young's best friend took was a very valuable porcelain item from a customer. That item was valued at 70 million won. Now the family didn't know where to get the money to ransom Eun-young out. The parents kept blaming Eun-young for doing something stupid, but Eun-young turned around and blamed his parents because his parents always discriminated against him. His older sister was always number one, and Eun-young was no different from a spare. It turned out that Eun-young's birthday was 3 days before Dong-myung's brother's death, so Eun-young didn't get to celebrate his birthday. Eun-young was always jealous that only his older sister got to celebrate her birthday. So on his birthday, Eun-young asked his mother to make seaweed soup for him, but Asun always ignored Eun-young. That day, Eun-young bragged to her mother about his test score of 65 points, but his mother only cared about Geum-myeong's test with only one answer wrong. At breakfast, Eun-young always had to eat leftovers. Just because his older sister was a picky eater, Eun-young always had to eat leftovers that his older sister didn't eat. These small actions could destroy a child's soul. Eun-young wanted to be noticed by his parents, but he was not good at studying. So Eun-young wanted to be talented and earn a lot of money to get his parents' attention. That's why Eun-young opened a pawn shop, which led to the mistake he made today. Eun-young told his parents that it's better not to love at all, because being loved less was scary. This made Asun and Gwan-sik very heartbroken. This was the biggest mistake of their lives. On this side, Yumi went to her father to ask for help. Now she really needed money to take Eun-young out. However, Taehoon firmly said no. Asun and some neighbors went to Eun-young's best friend's house to ask. However, his mother shirked her responsibility. Now she didn't even know where her son was. "If you're so good, go find him and bring him back," she said. Asun and the neighbors found out that Eun-young's best friend sold that valuable porcelain to buy a color TV. He also bought his mother a gold ring on her finger. His mother turned around and said there was no evidence. She also said that Eun-myeong went to jail because he was like his mother, who had dropped out of high school. Hearing this, Asun went crazy. The two mothers immediately grabbed each other's hair. This was the first time they saw Asun so angry that everyone was surprised. surprised. In the end, Asun took the color TV back to calm her anger. Gwan-sik had to sell the boat that he had been with for more than 20 years. This was not only a place to make a living, but also a place that held many memories for Gwan-sik. There, Gwan-sik had seen the poem that Asun had written about him years ago. At that time, Gwan-sik had felt very happy, and so Gwan-sik read it while walking home. Asun was still embarrassed when she wrote those words. After collecting enough money, Geum-myeong was released. Geum-myeong was very angry when he found out that his father had sold the boat. But how could his parents leave their son in prison? Asun told Geum-myeong that it was okay for him to be angry with his mother, but Geum-myeong should not be angry with his father. Geum-myeong knew very well how hard his father had worked for this family. Since the boat was gone, Asun and Gwan-sik had to change their business. Asun turned to selling squid at the market, while Gwan-sik drove a motorbike to deliver ice. The shy girl who used to sell cabbages was now different. Asun was now willing to compete with the aunties around her customers. It was because of life that people change, but no matter how difficult it was, Asun always felt happy. Gwan-sik felt guilty for not giving Asun a richer life, but for Asun, it was Gwan-sik who had saved her life. If it weren't for Gwan-sik, Asun would still be an orphan. That night, Yumi was upset about Geum-myeong. Recently, Geum-myeong had been selling rice cakes without anyone knowing. Hearing this, Gwan-sik was surprised. Every time Geum-myeong went out to sell cakes, he lied to his father that he was going out with friends. Gwan-sik knew about it, but he didn't say anything. Just like that, Geum-myeong went out to sell all night before returning home. He worked hard to earn money to pay back his parents, but sometimes there were things that made Geum-myeong feel angry. Then one day, Geum-myeong suddenly left home. Geum-myeong left some money with a message. Geum-myeong wanted to go out to relax a bit, signing the name of the unfilial son. Everyone was afraid that Geum-myeong would think of something stupid, so they were very worried. Soon after, they received information that Geum-myeong was found on a boat because he wanted to go fishing far from shore to earn more money. Immediately, Asun and Gwan-sik ran there in panic. Luckily, Yumi's father asked the boat to return to shore quickly. Taehoon would take care of all the travel expenses. A moment later, the boat carrying Geum-myeong returned. Gwan-sik angrily scolded his son. Did you know that going like that could mean you could die suddenly? Why did Geum-myeong do such a dangerous thing? He said. Geum-myeong had a reason for doing so. He felt humiliated every time he went out to sell rice cakes. The customers always told Geum-myeong to treat his father well. All the customers said the same thing. Then they gave Geum-myeong more money and food. Only then did Geum-myeong realize the kindness and the money he received. It was all thanks to his father and father-in-law who helped him. Before that, Gwan-sik and Taehoon knew about Geum-myeong selling rice cakes, so the two fathers sent some money to the customers. The two fathers wanted to help their son, but unexpectedly, that made Geum-myeong feel hurt. Not long after that, Geum-myeong applied for a job at the fishery cooperative. They only accepted someone like Geum-myeong because of his father Gwan-sik. On this side, Geum-myeong's life was not much better. Because of the economic crisis, she was unemployed. Geum-myeong had an idea to start a business. Not long after that, Geum-myeong suddenly came home. Asun felt strange because her daughter had never come home to ask for tangerines. So, Asun wanted to visit Geum-myeong's house tomorrow, but Geum-myeong immediately stopped her. Asun had a feeling that something had happened, so she tried to ask. Only then did Geum-myeong reveal that she and her husband had sold their house. Now Geum-myeong had to rent a smaller house. Because Geum-myeong's business failed, she lost everything. Hearing her daughter say that, both parents were stunned. Seeing Geum-myeong's hand injured from overwork made Asun even more furious. Asun angrily kicked Geum-myeong and her younger brother out of the house. If you don't listen to your mother and think what she said is nonsense, then leave quickly, she said. Geum-myeong immediately asked why her mother didn't ask her what business she was in. This was also the first time in Geum-myeong's life that she caused a problem. Asun asked Geum-myeong when she planned to have children. Mentioning that issue made Geum-myeong feel a headache. She said, "Do you really think kids these days just grow up fine on their own if you leave them be?" She wanted to raise her child like a wealthy family would, being able to provide everything. Otherwise, she would rather not have a child at all. Hearing this, Gwan-sik knew he had to do something. For the first time in his life, Gwan-sik went all in. Gwan-sik sold his cabbage garden. He mortgaged his house to the bank. Then, he bought a place to do business. According to the real estate brokers, this was a very prime area because many important projects were about to be built here and would attract residents. Here, Gwan-sik and Asun opened a seafood restaurant. If this failed, the whole family would be out on the streets. At the age of 50, Gwan-sik and Asun really wanted to settle down, but because their children were having difficulties, they had no other choice. In the following days, not a single ghost came to eat the restaurant, and there was no construction going on. Only then did Gwan-sik realize that he had been fooled by the real estate brokers. Gwan-sik could only sit still and let his son scold him. Sitting next to him, Asun immediately stood up to protect Gwan-sik. This was Gwan-sik's money. If Gwan-sik was cheated or robbed, what right did Geum-myeong have to scream? Because Geum-myeong and his older sister always mentioned the word money. That's why their father did that. that. When Eun-myeong and his sister did business and caused trouble, they didn't discuss it with their parents. At this time, Geum-myeong was there and said that she had money. When A-sun returned home, she found out that Geum-myeong had borrowed money from everywhere. The mention of money made Geum-myeong very angry. Jeju wondered where all the money she had sent home all this time had gone. Since Geum-myeong started working part-time, Geum-myeong had been sending home 100,000 won every month. Now, Geum-myeong really needed that money. Geum-myeong said that she sent the money back not because she felt grateful to her parents. She sent it because she felt guilty. She told her mother, "You don't know how bad that feeling of guilt is." At that moment, Gwan-sik appeared and yelled at Geum-myeong. It was the first time he had shown such anger towards his daughter. Seeing this, Geum-myeong could only cry. After Geum-myeong returned to the city, A-sun discovered that her daughter was pregnant. Before she left, Geum-myeong posted a picture of the fetus to let her parents know. Along with it was Geum-myeong's apology to her parents. Thinking about her daughter who was pregnant but had to borrow money for her parents made A-sun extremely heartbroken. Sometime later, Geum-myeong finally gave birth. Due to her mother's genetics, Geum-myeong also had a difficult labor. The nurse wanted Chung-sup to sign a commitment letter in case anything bad happened. But Chung-sup immediately affirmed that he had chosen his wife. Right after that, Chung-sup wanted to tell his parents-in-law, but Geum-myeong didn't want that because she was afraid that her parents would worry. After writhing in pain for a while, the baby was finally born. Luckily, Geum-myeong was safe and sound. However, Chung-sup was so scared that he cried like a child. After that severe pain, Geum-myeong still couldn't understand why her mother could give birth to her when she was only 18 years old. As soon as Geum-myeong finished speaking, her parents were already there. Geum-myeong and her mother hugged each other in tears as they met. At this moment, Geum-myeong felt even more sorry for her mother. It was true that only when you have children do you understand your parents' love. Running a restaurant in the traditional way was not effective. Gwan-sik and his son Eun-myeong started distributing flyers to advertise the restaurant. Luckily, at that time, the World Cup was on, causing the whole country to be excited. Everyone watched football and called for food delivery. Gwan-sik's restaurant also did well from then on. The luck didn't stop there. One day, a special guest came to Gwan-sik's restaurant. This woman was a very famous actress. She was filming a TV show at Gwan-sik's restaurant. This was an opportunity to promote the restaurant without Gwan-sik spending any money. Outside, the manager asked the actress why she was helping Gwan-sik. It turned out that 25 years ago, Gwan-sik was the one who had saved the actress's life. Because of the pressure, the actress had intended to end her life. Before doing so, the actress tore up her ID card to avoid revealing her celebrity identity. At that time, Gwan-sik was the one who saved the actress. Gwan-sik was also the one who had taken off his shirt to cover the actress's face when many cameras were pointed at him. It was Gwan-sik who saved the actress's life and her subsequent career advancement. This was the only chance for the actress to repay Gwan-sik. On the other side, Geum-myeong was now the director of an investment consulting company. Her career was on the rise. After A-sun and Gwan-sik's restaurant appeared in the media and newspapers, customers flocked to the restaurant. There were days that the couple worked so hard. Seeing money coming in like water made A-sun happy. She even thought about prospect of the couple traveling everywhere. In A-sun's entire life, this was the most worthwhile time to live. Seeing A-sun's restaurant doing well, another neighbor opened an identical restaurant next door, and she was the person A-sun hated the most in the fishing village. But A-sun didn't care because fakes would never last long. That day, Geum-myeong called her mother for help. At the age of 37, Geum-myeong still needed her mother because she didn't know how to be a mother. Geum-myeong didn't know why her daughter was always upset when Geum-myeong feeds her. At times like this, Geum-myeong could remember thousands of her daughter's facial expressions, but she can't remember any of her mother's. Geum-myeong wondered if she had been too heartless and would regret it later when she could only look at her mother through pictures. A-sun whispers to her granddaughter, "Be gentle with my daughter. Protect my daughter for a long time." No matter how heartless Geum-myeong was, to A-sun, she was always her most precious child. That day, Geum-myeong took her parents for a routine health checkup. Geum-myeong had to beg her parents to go because they were afraid that their daughter would waste money. A-sun revealed to Geum-myeong that her father was now taking guitar lessons. This was the first time in her life that A-sun knew that Gwan-sik had such a hobby. In his delirium, Gwan-sik suddenly called out his youngest son's name, something he had not mentioned for a long time. Returning home, Gwan-sik went to his son's grave alone. Surrounding him were many toys that he had bought for Dong-myeong. At the same time, A-sun was also there. She complained that Gwan-sik had come all this time without inviting her along. The reason Gwan-sik did not want to mention Dong-myeong was because he was afraid that A-sun would be sad. Every time he came here, he saw A-sun sitting by her youngest son's grave. Rain or shine, A-sun was always there to protect the boy. A-sun and Gwan-sik's footsteps created a flat road throughout the 4 seasons. Dong-myeong's grave was always the cleanest place. At times like that, Gwan-sik could only sit and watch silently from afar. Gwan-sik did not want to face A-sun. He also did not dare to mention his youngest youngest son's name because he was afraid of seeing Asun cry. That night, the hospital suddenly called. They discovered a problem in Gwan-sik's blood, so they wanted to check again. The next day, when she arrived at the hospital, Geum-myeong told her mother, no matter what the doctor said, don't cry. No matter how sick dad was, Geum-myeong would cure him. After the examination, Gwan-sik was diagnosed with leukemia. With his current condition, it would be dangerous if they did not act immediately. Although Geum-myeong was the one who told her mother not to cry, she was the first to cry. In the following days, Gwan-sik began his chemotherapy treatment. As time passed, his steps became slower and heavier. He began to feel scared. It was not that Gwan-sik was afraid of his illness, but that he was afraid of leaving Asun alone in the world. Gwan-sik looked at the old woman behind him and thought about Asun's future. Now, Gwan-sik was lucky to have Asun by his side to take care of him. Later, when Gwan-sik was no longer around, Asun would be very lonely. That night, Gwan-sik talked privately with Geum-myeong. He told his daughter, Jeju-myeong, you must treat her well in the future. You must take good care of your mother. Jeju-myeong's mother is an indescribably wonderful and precious person. So Jeju-myeong, don't get angry at your mom just because you find her annoying. Don't be irritated. Be gentle and loving with her, okay? A few days later, Gwan-sik wanted to be discharged from the hospital and go home. Eun-myeong had prepared a bicycle for his father along with music sheets for his father to play the guitar. However, he could not have imagined that his father would no longer be able to use it. Seeing his father so much thinner made Eun-myeong unable to stop crying. That night, Asun happily held the book of poems in her hand. She ran out to show it to Gwan-sik right away. Her poems had been published. Asun thought that Gwan-sik had fulfilled his promise to help her become a poet. A book of poems that Asun wrote especially for Gwan-sik, talking about positive things, talking about the half-century love story of Asun and Gwan-sik. Asun wanted Gwan-sik to read it to gain more motivation to fight the disease. Gwan-sik knew that the day he would leave Asun was getting closer. His biggest regret was that he could not spend the rest of his life with Asun. He hoped that in the next life he could still hold Asun's hand once. At that time, he would fulfill more promises to her. Not long after, Gwan-sik's condition took a turn for the worse. The sky that day seemed to collapse before their eyes. Seeing their father slowly leave them made Geum-myeong and Eun-myeong unable to hold back their emotions. In the intensive care unit, Asun always stood outside, watching her husband's every breath. To Gwan-sik, Asun was always a girl in her 20s. Gwan-sik spent his whole life protecting the person he loved. Until his last breath, Gwan-sik still wanted to see Asun's beautiful face. When Asun removed her mask, it was also the moment when Asun and Gwan-sik could no longer see each other. A few days later, Grandma called Jeum-myeong. She gave her a savings book. That was the amount of money Jeum-myeong sent home every month. Gwan-sik did not spend a single penny, no matter how hard it was. Although Asun was the only one left in the house, she did not feel lonely. Because wherever she was, Asun could see the figure of her husband Gwan-sik, the hair clips that Gwan-sik had bought for Asun. Because when they were little, Gwan-sik had promised to buy hair clips for Asun for the rest of her life. The door lock was also carefully remade by Gwan-sik. Or the things that were on high places, Gwan-sik also put them in places where Asun could easily reach. And then, Asun continued writing the ending of the book of poems about her life. Asun's book of poems was then sent to the editor-in-chief. In it, Asun wrote about her life from when she was a child until she was old. The editor-in-chief read everything in it and couldn't hold back her tears. It seemed like this was the most emotional book of poems she had ever read. The editor-in-chief immediately wanted to publish Asun's book of poems. Meanwhile, Asun had moved back to her mother's old house. Asun now also had a job at a nursing home. Here, Asun helped the old ladies write poems and draw pictures. Living life was like returning to everyone's childhood. Here, Asun was called teacher by everyone. This made her very happy. Whether she was a child or over 70 years old, Asun always missed her mother. Asun wandered to the beach and called her mother like the little girl she used to be. At the same time, her daughter Geum-myeong called. Geum-myeong was also at home waiting for her mother, just like Asun was trying to call her mother. At the same time, the Seaflower Publishing House sent Asun a box of her own poetry collection. Seeing this made Asun very proud. Up above, Gwan-sik must be smiling when he saw it. Geum-myeong wanted her mother to quit her job at the nursing home and follow her to Seoul. She was old enough to rest. Geum-myeong didn't want her mother to be busy all her life, but Asun didn't want that. Even though she was old, Asun still wanted to have a place in the world. She hated being treated like an extra. At the nursing home, everyone called Asun Teacher Asun, which made her very happy. She thought she was now achieving the greatest advancement of her life. From the daughter of a hanyo who had cried every day at sea, to a literary girl who was always shy about everything in the world, to having a lover and a happy family, to becoming the head of a fishing village. And then, at the age of 70, she was called teacher and a poet. Asun had enjoyed all the flavors of this life. Asun smiled with satisfaction as she held the book of poems about her life. Although life had ups and downs, Asun was always satisfied with every moment. For Asun, her life had only one spring, and the person who had nurtured that spring was none none other than Gwan-sik. This book of poems would not have existed without that wonderful husband, just as A-sun's life could not have continued if A-sun had not met Gwan-sik. The movie ended here. Hope you had a great time watching the movie. Don't forget to comment on your thoughts about the movie to let us know. Goodbye, and see you again in the next movies.